My friends,
What's up?
we are back in your live. What's up, Ricky?
How's it going, man?
It's going so good. Coming off of big Collecticon in Charlotte and then the front row Vegas show. So lots of travel, but we're back home and back in our lovely abode here with the Pokemon card background. So very happy. How about you, man? What are you up to?
Yeah, similar, man. I just wrapped up my short work week before the West Coast Card Show, so I'm very excited. This is my first time vending out of the Bay Area, so I'm expecting to meet a lot of new and old friends and make a lot of great deals. And yeah, man, I'm a little behind on pricing everything, but I think we'll be cool.
Yeah, that's always a journey before you go to a big show. You've got hours and hours of pricing to do to be ready, and there's always that decision, all the decisions you have to make, like, oh man, like, where do I price this based on what it's been doing, where it's been trending.
Yeah,
If I know you mentioned like a gold star groudon that you have that like you bought for what, like $700, and now it's
500.
probably recent comps for double that. So what do you do? Are there any listings? That's actually maybe a good topic for us one day, is to talk about pricing theory for cards.
Yeah, write it down. If folks are interested in it in the chat, let us know. Yeah, the Groudon PSA 4 Gold Star Groudon I bought, I think around May for $500. They're like $1,500 now, so it tripled, not doubled.
Wow. Well,
Kind of ridiculous. That's kind of scary. That's getting
it's
into
that
a
kind of
weird zone.
stuff that hopefully can convince you and your wife to go full time.
I didn't tell you this. The CEO of my last company, or a few companies ago, he's now in venture capital. He happens to be the brother of Sam Altman of
Okay.
ChatGPT and OpenAI fame.
Yeah.
He texted me randomly 2 days ago and goes, "You should go full time." And he was like literally trying to convince me that this is like better. And I'm like, nah. Anyway, we talked about it. He said I'm making the right play right now. But he's like, dude, honestly, you should think about it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Sometimes the offer from the company is too good to turn down, but
Yeah,
at the end of the day, I know you're going to choose what is right and what feels best, man. But
totally.
I think I'll talk you into coming over to the dark side one day soon.
We'll see, man.
Guys, for all of us who maybe weren't here last week, our entire stream was dedicated to talking about the mega evolutions and new sets that are dropping, hype. What are we expecting? What are we hoping for? So at the end of this stream, if you didn't get a chance to check that out, then go back there. We also had a couple of questions in the chat last time that we didn't address, as to why are we called the Midweek Machamps. So Ricky, what do you think? What warrants that kind of name for us?
Well, obviously it's happening midweek on Wednesdays, so that part is hopefully self-explanatory.
Mm-hmm.
The Machamps, though, I mean, obviously Machamps are very cool OG Pokemon, but what fits us, I think, is you and I are obviously, maybe not obviously, maybe folks don't know, we're both martial artists, and so you're the Machamp in the backwards hat with the shorts and your MMA background, and I am the one in the jiu-jitsu gi. So we figured as the two resident combat sports Poketubers that we're the Machamps.
Maybe one day we'll have to do like a half Pokemon, half MMA chat on here. That'd be kind of fun. There's a lot of news going on in the UFC world that I'm sure we could chat about for hours.
If people would be interested in that, I'm down. Even if they're not, I'm still down. Yeah. Let's do it, man.
Awesome, man. Well, let's dive right into some of our regular segments here. For those, again, who don't know, we have some regular segments where we share some things from personal collection. We talk about maybe recent deals that we've done, because both of us buy, sell, and trade, and just kind of talk about what's fresh for us, what's keeping us interested here in the hobby. So maybe we start with each share a personal collection pickup, or just an item in your personal collection that you have a connection to that we haven't seen yet, Ricky.
Yeah, this one essentially is a pickup, and so unfortunately for folks who have seen my most recent video, they did see this one. But I'll talk about a pickup that is not as known as well. So some folks might know that this is a very nostalgic card for me, and I'm collecting this Lugia Japanese Neo in PSA 1 through 10, and they all have to have a swirl on it. So that's a prerequisite. So the whole population doesn't matter. It just has to have a swirl. So the recent pickup for me is what came back in my shipment here is the sometimes elusive PSA 1, and it does have a really nice. But the thing I love about this, and one of the reasons I want to showcase it, even though I did just talk about it in a video this week, is this was a card that was sent to me by somebody in the community. Specifically, I mean, they sent me the listing specifically, but they were like, hey, there's a swirled up busted Lugia for sale on eBay right now. If you want to go buy it, it looks like a 1 contender. And actually yesterday, my days are all blending together. Sometime in the last 24 hours, another person in the community messaged me on Instagram and said, there's a PSA 5, and I know you don't have 5 and 6, and it's got a swirl. And I just purchased that. Wow. So of course I still had to, I did not pay list price. I paid a few bucks under list price, but we got the 5 now. So I'm actually talking to somebody about an 8.5 that has a swirl. And then all I will have is the 6. So anyway, I wanted to showcase that one because for one thing, I'm excited about it. But for another, it's goes back to what Pokemon is always so primarily about for me, which is the sort of community aspect, the connections we made along the way, if you will. So yeah, excited about this. It is really one of those journey more than the destination things. Like it actually feels bittersweet to be this close to done with this. Yeah. So I don't know how I'll feel when it's done, but yeah, sorry.
I said, I know exactly what you're feeling, like it's for some reason, as I kind of approach the end of a certain collection goal, another one magically comes to mind. And so I have 5 or 6 concurrent goals at all times so that I don't ever reach the bitter end of collecting. But yeah, I love that. So you said there's an 8.5. Like, are there other half grades that you're going to have to get that even exist?
Yeah, there are. I was looking at it the other day. I don't have it memorized. So not every half grade exists for this card. And so I obviously also don't know if a swirled up version of every half grade exists. I do think there's a 1.5 and a 2.5, and there's not like, the pop's not like 1 or something. So it might be something I come across. I was really focusing on the solid integers, but if the 0.5s come to me, somebody in my comment section said I have an 8.5 with a swirl that I'd sell to you. So we're working through that. If it come to me, I will probably usually pick them up, and then who knows, man, it'll be like signed by Arita or whoever the artist is on this one, Yoshida. Maybe there'll be signed versions that I have to get. So I'm sure it'll, in some ways, that, like you said, I'll find a new collection goal, even if it's this exact same collection. I'll just find ways to expand it into half grades and signatures and whatever else.
Yeah. I love it. It'll never end. You can just keep stacking Lugias till the end of time.
I love it. Yeah, man. It's it's one of my favorite cards of all time. How about you? Any fun pickup recently, or something in your collection?
I do have a really fun pickup. And for those of you who follow me on Instagram, you already kind of know what it is, but I'll talk about it more when I go over a recent Pokemon card deal, because I actually picked it up this past weekend as part of a big trade. But maybe before I show that, I'll also just talk about the slab wall here. We are down to only 2 spots that need to be filled here on the slab wall. There's some rhyme and reason to what's going on up here. It's exclusively like modern alt arts and full art cards. So from X, Y, and forward, just cards that I really like. And then, as I get a card into trade or whatever that I like maybe more than one that I have up on the wall, I'll just exchange them and either kind of put that one into long-term storage or sell it at the table or whatever it may be. And just kind of over time, it'll naturally be curated into like a really cool modern alt art wall, right? Awesome. So yeah, I think a couple of the pickups I got this weekend that needed to go on the wall, I needed the Dialga V from Astral Radiance in a 10. And then since we recorded last, at the Charlotte Collecticon, I picked up the Espeon Deoxys Tag Team promo in a 10.
Awesome.
So that's up on the wall.
Love that.
Yeah. So some really cool ones up here, and maybe one day I'll do like a whole video where we tour each one and talk about like, hey, like, this was the story behind this card, and this is how we got it, and this is why I liked it, and that kind of stuff. So that's always fun.
Yeah.
But then you mentioned before stream that you didn't really have any maybe marquee deals that you wanted to talk about
Yeah.
since last stream. Is that right? And anything you wanted to throw out, or maybe just pepper us with a little bit of a what are you excited about? Because this is going to be your first time vending in a little while.
Yeah.
This coming weekend, maybe just drop us a little bit of a, what are you hoping, expecting? What are you excited to see this coming weekend at West Coast Card Show in SoCal?
Yeah, thanks for asking. It has been a few months. Yeah, I'm excited to get a pulse on what people are interested in again. I'm probably more than anything though, man, I'm excited to be somewhere new. Just because I've done all my vending here in the Bay Area, and I don't know, like the channel's grown a lot since the last time I was anywhere else. I went to LA for where you and I first met in person for a Collecticon back in March, and getting stopped by folks who are inspired by the content, and they're creating their own. A lot of people walking around with GoPros on their chest or whatever, and they're like, "I'm doing this because of your channel." It's like those interactions I really really love. Yeah, man, I'm excited. There are a lot of people that I've interacted with through Instagram or done deals with remotely, or who have just been following the channel from the very early days, who I know are based down there and are planning to go this weekend. So it's just going to be really fun to put faces to Instagram handles and all that. I'm curious what of my higher end stuff will move. I have a handful of things that I did not spend over $1,000 on that are now over $1,000, and some local shows here, that kind of stuff literally never gets looked at, and at some shows it's all that people are interested in. So I'm a little curious about that for sure. Massive show, biggest one I've ever been to, certainly the biggest one I've vended, I think the biggest one I've attended. And a little sneak peek for the folks that watch this, it's not under NDA, but I can't be too specific. A major YouTube channel that does Vice style documentaries is doing a piece on Pokemon, and I'm going to be one of the people in it. And so
Whoa.
actually on Saturday, there will be a small documentary crew there. So that's going to be really fun. They do a really amazing job, and probably a lot of people have heard of it. So hopefully in a few months that'll be out and I can share it with everybody. And it'll, hopefully I can represent the community and the hobby well.
I love it, dude. That's so cool. I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
seeing what that comes out as.
Thanks, man. What's your recent deal? You've been doing so many shows. You must have a story or two.
Yeah. One of the deals we did in Charlotte, I'll just kind of talk about it, but it was another one of those situations where an individual, their grandparent found, like an entire box mail, like large mailbox worth of sealed stuff that they had never actually gifted the grandkid from back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And so this collection walked up to the table, and it was a whole bunch of sealed base set packs, blisters, and sealed fossil blister packs. And
Nice.
I think 8 or 9 of the original theme decks still sealed with the little hanger on them.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
a bunch of like keychain toys and Burger King toys, and just like it was literally like a time capsule. And so I was able to work a big deal out on that stuff. But then this past weekend in Las Vegas, I picked up what is probably the mascot of this channel. I worked a deal out with Clover Cards. I had come into some Neo Destiny packs, some first edition packs, and that's not really my kind of bag to sell the higher end packs. But some of the other streaming channels that are going to open some of those more expensive things can get better use out of those. And so I went over to the Clover Cards booth, and they just had this sitting in the booth. Hopefully you can get some good light on that.
Yeah, 10. Wow.
This is a PSA 10 Machamp reverse legendary
Machamp.
collection card.
Machamps.
Yeah, Midweek Machamps. This is Pop 30.
Yeah.
And obviously an iconic Machamp artwork. Everyone when they were a kid had this card, because at least this artwork, because it was in that original theme deck, and so we all had that first edition holo. And yeah, it was really cool to see that. And I remember, I don't know, a year or two ago, like looking at, hey, if I ever wanted like a big vintage grail, like what card would it be? And a bunch of the options that really rang true to me were from Legendary Collection.
Oh.
One of them being this Machamp. And so really was excited to pick that up. It was like a no-brainer. And so we traded the packs. It was 4 packs, and we picked up that, and we picked up a sealed felt hat Pikachu promo, and then another slab. And so it's just a straight trade between vendors, worked out for both of us. And yeah, very, very cool to have that. And it's sticking around in the personal collection. I have no intention of selling that anytime soon.
Congrats, man. Those legendary collection are interesting. The population for PS8, the gem rate tends to be terrible because they are littered with print lines that, even if they're perfectly mint, they're bound for 8s and 9s a lot of the time. So I don't know the specifics on that card, but I'm sure it's probably basically a graveyard of 7s, 8s, and 9s that people thought might 10, and then there's 30 something 10s. So that's very cool, man. I'm curious because when I grew up, like where I grew up, legendary collection was not super popular because because it had the stigma, like there were a lot of stickers that had that sort of like firework. It sort of like invoked fake card. And then now it's so interesting now. I think they're so cool. They're like, there's such an amazing nostalgia to them. They're such a unique part of Pokemon like card history.
Yeah.
Why was legendary collection the thing that why is that your grail? Like what in your experience or history or brain wanted that?
It comes down to exclusivity, and like it's the only generation with that firework reverse hollow. And so when I was a kid, I don't remember like being savvy enough to distinguish between the sets and to know like, oh, like this is from legendary collection and whatever. But I think one of the reasons that it suffered as a set back then is because it was like the third reprint of all of these same artworks, because you had the original set, and then you had base set 2, which was basically a reprint of all those artworks. And then you had LC, and LC came out years later. And the other thing about it was in the LC pack, like it's designed to be a deck builder. So there's intentionally going to be duplicates that you pull in a lot of those packs. And as a kid, when you're opening packs, like you don't really care about playability. You're just like, man, I want as many different characters as I can get. So maybe that's why it kind of suffered. But dang, those packs are spendy, and it's a huge risk to reward ratio to be opening them. And so getting any of these in a PSA 10 is these days is really tough, just because the packs are already so expensive. And it's a PC grail. I'm really excited to have it.
Love it, man. Good. Well, before we move into the tall grass. I was thinking we just hang out with the chat, because I love that we did that a little bit more last time, and I was seeing some good vibes. Looks like your brother's in there. Someone said, Jonah Michael said they love this pod. Thanks, Jonah. We love you all watching the pod. We are so live, unfathomably live. Unfathomably live. Awesome. Yeah. Nice hanging out with everyone in the chat. We'll take your questions toward the back half of the stream. Did we say today that we're going to talk a little bit about the state of card shows and a couple other main topics before we get into that? I don't remember if we said that.
The title that we're going to be touching on our main event is going to be discussing, is the card show as it stands today, is it here to stay? And I'm excited to get into that because, I think between the two of us, we're going to probably be at like 50 of these things this year. And so we have a pretty good sample size of what it's like and how busy they are and how big they're getting. I mean, you mentioned that you're headed to West Coast this weekend, and they are estimating 1,200 tables.
1,200 tables, 40,000 attendees.
40,000 attendees over the course of 4 days. Yeah. Like this is more like Burning Man or something than it is a card show.
I literally think Burning Man is about to happen too. I know some people that are going to it, so it's funny you pulled that. Yeah, totally. It's going to be it's going to be a movie, a whole event. It's I'll report back on how it is, but yeah, we will definitely have a lot to talk about. Elijah, welcome to the stream. If you missed the first 2, go check them out. We had some other fun conversations with y'all last time. Let's should we get into the tall grass?
Let's get into the tall grass, man. See what we can catch in here. I know first up are some far-fetched ideas.
Ooh, man, we have some far-fetched ideas today. Yeah. You first or me first?
I want you first because I know that yours is a little bit informed by a video that you recently put out, and just how utterly dominant you are when it comes to getting PSA 10s these days.
Yeah, yeah. I listen. I'm not gonna sit around and call myself the goat because that wouldn't be very cool. But if you want to call me the goat, if the chat wants to call me the goat, it's totally
Yeah,
fine.
let the chat decide.
Let the chat. Okay, you won't decide for me. You're not gonna help me out at all here.
It's a conflict of interest. If I have the
Uh,
goat on the on a program every other week, that's just good for
that's
me.
fair. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. My far-fetched idea, Jake, is I don't believe right now that Pokemon is in a bubble, but I am a little skeptical of modern graded cards.
Hmm.
And they kind of make me nervous about like when if and when a correction comes, like eventually a correction comes. We're going to talk about this a little bit because you noticed an interesting trend in the last few shows. So it might be kind of related, but if that happens, I think a huge chunk of the graded cards that are in circulation right now, for one thing, are owned by speculators and vendors rather than collectors who truly just genuinely love and collect graded cards. And they would pretty much like regardless of hype or value or anything like that. The second thing is I think a lot of the people that are like grading specifically for money, they're not going to stick around if the money isn't as easy, if things aren't as liquid, if the supply eventually outstrips the demand on these graded cards. I'm talking particularly about like really high pop modern cards and like kind of junk slabs, like CGC 8 bulk cards and things like that. So you're talking about the video I just put out, and I'm obviously having a little bit of fun with the title and thumbnail of that PSA return, saying I keep getting away with it. And in the title or in the thumbnail, I said, "Is this too easy?" But like, there actually really is a part of me that feels like it's a little too easy. Like, it's not an auto money printer because it's still kind of hard to like source, and you can't source an infinite number of PSA 10 candidates, and it takes a few months and stuff. But like, every time I've sent in 20 or 60 or whatever cards to PSA, it's like 2 to 4x to the value of that package. So I pay $500 to $1,000 and then I just get back, I just triple the value of whatever I just sent them. Like, that seems weird. And so it concerns me a little bit. I don't know what your thoughts are on this. I feel really differently about like really hard to grade, like your Machamp that you just showed, that LC Machamp, completely different story. But yeah, it makes me a little nervous.
You don't feel like you might be downplaying your ability to source and submit these cards? I mean, do you think everybody's getting this kind of gem right?
No, but these cards are high population. Like, the thing that I'm thinking about is like Moonbreon, right? I mean, it's a very like simple, or Van Gogh Pikachu, maybe an even better example. It has like a 50% gem rate. There's like 40,000 PSA 10s. I understand that there might be more than 40,000 people who want and could afford that card in a PSA 10, but if that were true and they were acting on it, then the prices would just keep going up infinitely. It's more like an observation on that. I mean, maybe am I downplaying? I don't know. I actually, like, maybe someone said in my comments that, or maybe they DM'd me or something. Someone said to me recently that they watched a lot of PSA returns recently, and a lot of people were getting annihilated. So mine was maybe an outlier. I actually don't know because I don't watch a ton of PSA return videos. It's really hard for me to confirm or deny that. Like, am I downplaying it? I don't know, but it's just the general, like, zooming out, thinking about the populations of these cards. If 40,000 Van Gogh Pikachu PSA 10s is not nearly enough, I would think that the price would just keep going up because people would just keep buying them because they're like, I really want one, before it becomes impossible to get. And that never happens, right? It hits a certain price, and then Moonbreon hits a price, and then it kind of like comes back down. No one really wants to pay more than $3,000 for it or whatever. So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. What do you
It's
think?
such a complex topic, right? Because I think that sometimes when we think about, oh, the value of this card is inflated right now, we're thinking as if the community of people, the subset of people who own that card, are all thinking the same thing in regards to it.
Sure.
And the actual fact is that when it comes to the Van Gogh Pikachus, some certain thousands of the people who own the card recently got it and they really like it and they think it's worth more than the money or the trade that they exchanged for it. And then some other subset of the people who own that card have had it for a while and they think it's overvalued because they got it for quite a bit less and they're worried about some sort of correction.
Yeah.
And so maybe they sell and the others continue to hold. And there's just this constant kind of cycle happening within every single one of these items. And I think what we have to remember is that all of these things have made up value. They're just assigned value based on sentiment and organic demand, sometimes inorganic demand, but primarily sentiment. And so, in my mind, population these days, because of the number of collectors, it is a factor, but it's not as heavy as a factor as maybe it used to be. Because if attention moves towards that card for whatever reason, it could be tons of different reasons, the end of the print run or the artwork becomes popular or whatever. There's a million things that could influence attention to move towards something. But when it does, people don't think as much about the population. And so all of these are going to have ebbs and flows. But in my mind, one isn't more safe than the other because there's headwinds and tailwinds both for high pop and low pop.
Okay.
And that kind of maybe dovetails into my far-fetched idea, which is almost like the exact opposite. But
okay, I love it.
In regards to low population cards, I think a lot of these low pop cards, specifically the ones that have that are chase cards with really popular Pokemon in them, I think they could still be undervalued. And I know that that's insane to say because we've got these, I think it was today, Collector announced that a Gold Star Torchic PSA 9 sold for $20,000. And I sold a Torchic PSA 9 at a local show in Utah back in July last year or maybe August for $4,000.
Yeah.
That's 5 times the growth on a 9, not even on a 10, but a 9. And that is, meteoric, but I still think they have room to go. Because I think that the confidence in the market is specifically in hard to get items like these low pop cards. Every sale that happens that sets a new record, I think changes, it kind of reconfigures everyone's mind about what the intrinsic value of these things are and the actual rarity that they carry. I'm looking at the Delta species Dragonite that I have, this reverse hollow Delta species Dragonite. And between, I think probably March and now, I think almost every single public sale has been one leg up.
Yeah.
In price. And it can't perpetually do that, but I think a lot of these cards still have room because they're hard to get. And the people who have them know that they're hard to get, and you're going to have to pay them a pretty penny to let go of it.
It's funny you led into that by saying it's the opposite. I agree with that. I feel like we're in some ways saying similar things.
Well, I guess it was not
you're coming at it
to what you're saying, but it's I'm talking about a different part of the market completely.
Right. So we independently came to similar conclusions, but we're focused on sort of different segments of the market. It's interesting. Yeah, man. Yeah. I agree. I was surprised when I got back into the hobby how relatively little interest there was in vintage generally. And then the more I learned, the more surprised I got. And it was one of the things that got me very interested in the Neo Shinings and the Gold Stars, and the stuff is genuinely really rare.
Yeah, it is. It's legitimately rare and desirable. And what we're seeing is this kind of, every time there's a call back to it, there's the resurgence in attention. We've got a Charizard Gengar set that is essentially announced.
Yeah.
And no surprise that Charizard and Gengar cards are all at all-time highs.
Yeah.
I think I heard somewhere that the Japanese Skyridge Gengar in a PSA 10 recently sold for like $8,000 or $9,000,
Wow.
which is like 5x what it was just maybe earlier this year.
That's wild.
So
Yeah,
it's
that's wild.
all over the place.
It has been really interesting to see that effect carry over into Japanese. Like
Yeah.
that I don't know if I would have called that correctly about vintage, but it seems to be the case. I mean, from that same PSA shipment, I sent in a Sabrina's Gengar. It was the third time I sent in a Sabrina's Gengar. Gotten a 9 and 2 10s. Frankly, gifted the 10 this time, but we'll take it. And and last one I got, it was climbing up. It was maybe like they were $800 and they were 1,000, and then someone bought it from me for around 1,000, local vendor for his PC, and then they'd gone up to 1,200. I was like, wow, that's wild. They're that much. They're like 3,250 now. Like the last sale was like over 3.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's not a low pop vintage card. There's like 1,100 of them.
I mean, there you go. Wild. I mean, it is. I get why it's Gengar. It's a banned card. It is a very iconic, kind of historic card. But yeah, over 1,000 is not low pop. We defined that last time. I think we defined low pop as 250. What was your number?
Yeah, somewhere around there, under
Yeah.
200, under 300, something like that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I should probably remember, if I'm going to.
Yeah. Well, it was a good take.
I love those far-fetched ideas. Let's move into a fresh Hitmon topic of the week. Since we last met, there's been some, let's call it a disturbance in the food industry in Japan. Can you go into detail, Ricky, and tell us what's going on?
Yeah, let me do a little screen share here. Let's put this up for folks. Yeah, we can see this. Did we hear about this? The McDonald's promo in Japan is basically got scalped into oblivion, and people, whether it's Japanese collectors or scalpers, or I think it was people coming internationally into Japan, were literally buying these meals. They were supposed to be limit 5. I guess that wasn't being enforced, and then people were literally like leaving the food out on the streets, which is I mean, I'm half Japanese. That's where the name Oyama comes from. This is this is really unusual behavior in this part of the world. So unfortunately wasteful. And then they stopped giving them out. Like they canceled it. Like they were like, parties over.
I didn't hear that they made some sort of a change in their approach to giving out the promo.
Yeah, I think they were like, it's over. I don't know if that's changed since, and I don't remember exactly what the company line was, but yeah, they're like, yeah, not doing that anymore. So that's gnarly. That's a good Hitmon topic. It's a week old now, and so much happens in this hobby that it seems like it was a long time ago. But yeah, it was ridiculous. Yeah, kind of American of them. I
don't know. I think it's un-American of them, because the Americans would for sure have just eaten all of that McDonald's.
It's a great point. That's hard to argue that point. Yeah, this is wild. So I'm not following the price of this. I'm not following the price of this promo or anything like that. But this is really unusual to see. And yeah, they made a call. I don't know if they said that they ran out or again, I don't remember what the company line was there, but yeah, I don't think they're doing them anymore. So pretty wild.
How much is the promo even worth? I haven't looked it up.
I have not either. I honestly haven't. Someone in the chat probably knows. We have a guest next week that we'll talk about probably at the end that will definitely knows and can elaborate on this. But yeah, this one's kind of rough. And then was there anything else you wanted to say on this Hitmon topic? Because I was thinking
I guess in general, obviously I don't love the look here, and it's kind of sad because there are so many good things happening in the Pokemon card hobby.
Yeah,
but it seems like breaking news is like food waste and fist fights when it comes to Pokemon cards, or just egregious public robbery of people in card show conventions. So it doesn't feel good to be affiliated with all this, because if anyone who is not in the hobby maybe asks me, hey, how's the small business you're working on? I heard that people in Japan are just going so crazy about these promos that they're throwing food in the streets. And yeah, it's tough to see that go on, but at the same time, the economics make sense. There's huge demand for these cards, and so if someone sees a chance to make what is essentially free money, it's hard to think that the average person isn't going to jump on that opportunity.
It is. So the chat's saying $25.
25 bucks. Okay, so you buy a Happy Meal and you earn $20 or so.
Yeah, and people are waiting in lines, and I guess if you buy them at scale, it's a few $100. I mean, I hope these people need the money that bad or something, but if they did, wouldn't they eat the meals? Like, I mean, I don't know, man. I think the take that it's a bad look. It's sort of it's bad for the hobby. It's a bad look.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's all I had on that one. So,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had a few others. I mean, a bunch since you and I talked last week as we were kind of thinking about this stream. Um, there's been a lot of interesting news around like card leaks and releases, some Charizard art. So I wanted to talk a little bit about those. Let's see. Let's go over here is an example.
Yeah, we had the World Championships, and they released some card arts, some of like regular Mega EXs, and then what it seems like is some of a new rarity called like Mega Attack.
Yeah.
Yes, this kind of like throwback street graffiti art. Really interesting.
So you and I exchanged a few messages about this, but we haven't really talked about it. What was your reaction? And then like, has it shrank or grown on you over the days?
My initial reaction was, I hope this isn't the SIR. I feel like it would be a wasted opportunity because I really do love the alt art style that was kind of introduced in Sun and Moon. You know, that kind of alt art style that really kind of became popularized in Sword and Shield, and obviously now with SIRs and Scarlet and Violet. And now that I feel like I'm pretty confident that these are not the SIRs. These are like a
Yeah.
separate rarity that will either come out in the same set or maybe at a later set. I'm actually really hyped because I think that these do have enough of a throwback to the X and Y fall arts from 2014, 2015 time. I don't know, man. I kind of dig it. I think they're gonna be they're gonna be kind of divisive in who likes them and who doesn't, but I think they're still gonna garner a lot of attention and do really good things for the sets they come out in.
Yeah. Yeah. Even in our chat, there's your brother says they look rough. Elder Unlimited says they're so good. Nikachu says takes time for it to grow on you. Some people say it's a little different. I mean, that's certainly can agree with that. Yeah, I felt similarly to you. I was like, I hope this isn't like the replacement of SIR, and it really does not seem like it is. So it just adds one more thing and to the set to pull. These, when I first saw them, they almost looked fake, right? Like they don't look anything like what Pokemon's been up to the last few years.
Yeah. They're kind of punk, aren't they?
They are kind of punk. You're right. The street graffiti style. I mean, there's something like really nostalgic about them. Like it just makes me feel like late '90s, early 2000s vibes. And I think I would be really excited to pull one of these. So when I first saw them, I hated them. When I saw this Charizard first, I was like, oh, is this fake? This looks bad. It looks like, it looks like good amateur fan art, but like bad relative to what the Pokemon company's been up to lately. And yeah, like Nikachu Collectibles said here, it just keeps growing on me. Like actually looking at them now, I like them even more than I did yesterday.
Yeah, it reminds me of kind of like and pardon me if this is a stretch, but it reminds me kind of what like Fortnite has done to a lot of IPs, where
Interesting. Yeah, yeah.
it kind of like rounds everything and kind of it gives it this samey feeling as it's imported into the Fortnite engine, so you can play as like a Jedi or as the Master Chief or as your favorite celebrity, and they kind of look like they should be there.
Totally.
And it reminds me kind of like of that, and I think that has maybe a collector base that's going to maybe be a little bit younger than you and I in general. I would be surprised if I bet you a bunch of like the 10 to 15-year-olds, when they see this card come out of a pack, they're going to be absolutely hyped. You know what I mean? It's like a younger art style, in my opinion.
I totally agree. Yeah, 100%. I think I think back to like what kids like at shows, and often it's very different than what adults like. Like for example, the gold cards. Like kids often really like those gold cards from the last few eras, but I don't find that anyone over 18, 15 seems to collect them, but like 8-year-olds go nuts for them. So I do get that. And yeah, someone here saying like Shinjuku. Yeah, this does feel very Japanese to me, which is maybe where the nostalgia is coming from in the late 90s. I lived in Japan some summers growing up. And that is sort of what it reminds me of, is like the packaging on toys in Japan. It's
Yes.
like it's got that sort of like, yeah, just clashing, loud, colorful, fun
Yes.
vibe.
It's got like a Toonami commercial written all over it, doesn't it?
Totally. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. So these are kind of cool. I think I had this is the English version. What do you think of this? Like any preference, or like not the English version, sorry, the Japanese version with the English text, which is of course what they did on the original style of this era years
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, I actually didn't see my first Japanese XY full art with English writing on it until maybe 18 months ago, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Wait a second, I didn't realize that they did it like this."
Right.
I thought it was very, very cool. And yeah, I kind of dig it because I don't collect too much Japanese, but this kind of gives me a reason to, like it has big Inferno X on it. It's kind of funky, it's kind of punk. I wouldn't mind owning this.
I'm totally with you, man. There's one more. I'm totally with you. I honestly, I think I might legit collect all of these. Like, I don't know. They're kind of doing it for me. Here's one more I just wanted to pull up because this one's pretty interesting. You saw
Yes.
this one,
I
I'm
did,
sure.
and
Yeah.
I remember originally seeing this and thinking, "Oh, this is too good to be true." But then when the Worlds announcement came out, and I saw that the name of the attack was the same and the description of the attack was the same, and the timeline between when this leak came out and when the official release of those cards came out was like it was too soon for someone to be able to come up with like a fake this good. And so like this feels like there's evidence that this is the SIR for Charizard in Phantasmal Flames. And if and when that happens, like someone says, that's going to break the hobby because both versions of Mega Charizard on here is, and what there's a Charmander, Charmeleon in
Uh-huh.
there. Like
Uh-huh.
this is, this is actually so good, dude.
Yeah, this looks really legit. Something that other people have pointed out, I'm not an expert in this. I don't know. There's so many different illustrators, but people have said that this is exactly the style that this artist does illustrations in.
Yeah.
So it would be it would be quite an incredible fake if it's fan art, because it's apparently really replicating that style. So maybe someone in the chat can verify that, because again, I'm not super sharp on all of those different illustrators, but this feels likely to be real,
I'm
is what
I'm
people.
going to predict right now that Graded Guard is going to make some sort of a confetti designed guard with this exact color scheme just because of how many people are going to want this card in a 10.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's gnarly. Uh, yeah. Okay. Well, I think that does it for Hitmon topics. I did see, just as a little side note, maybe something we talk about next time if this is still going on, that I think Shiny Vert had made a video reacting to someone who got a card very badly damaged by tag grading, and there's
Oh,
some drama there. So I only saw that maybe this morning, and I've had a completely busy day at work and prepping for the show, so I didn't get into it. But if folks in the chat are interested in
yeah.
topics like that, sort of like grading company drama,
Yeah, you
I'm sure
should
you
bank
and I
that, Ricky, because I think our special guest next week will also have an opinion because our special guest is also a prolific card grader as well.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Well, those are some really fun Hitmon topics, Jake. I think it's probably time that we give everyone a Gyarados of reality.
Yeah. Everyone, we need to kind of come back down to earth with a Gyarados of reality here. And you and I kind of talked about our thoughts on the Sword and Shield sealed product scene.
Yeah.
And you had a good example and some I guess some points to illustrate when it comes to the Lost Origin booster box.
Yes, yes. I should not have booted my screen share here. One sec.
Sorry, got you
No,
bouncing.
no. All good. No. You're totally right. You're a step ahead of me. Yeah, man. This. Okay, so I mean, you and I were kind of debating.
That chart is pretty explanatory right there, man.
Yeah, this says it all. I mean, how much do we have to zoom out? I mean, yeah. This is, I mean, but yeah, this movement recently, this is ridiculous. So, in the high fours, hovering around 500 really for a while. I think this box has been 500 for a handful of months, most of the summer. And then this boom. And you and I were thinking about, like, how does this relate to scarcity versus actual demand and desirability? Are these real collectors? Are these speculators? Is it something else entirely? Like, what are your thoughts, man?
What this screams to me is, well, first of all, let's talk about the facts. The facts are that these sets at the end of Sword and Shield, specifically booster boxes, did get heavy reprints.
Yeah.
These sets were printed heavily. And so there's a lot of it out there. And what this kind of movement screams to me is that there is there's two things going on. Number one, supply available on the market is being used up extremely quickly by our, the new engine that is rip and ship, and all the streams that are just needing constant feeding of thousands of packs every week in order to keep business moving.
Yeah, it's definitely.
And so that means that any box that is, open for business on the market is getting snatched up. And then the other thing that's happening is, on the other side of the hobby, you've got tons of people who are sitting on these boxes sealed and in cases and whatever else, because they now have a really strong track record of seeing other generations, of sealed booster boxes perform, if not as good, or maybe even better than traditional investments. And the reason we're seeing, at least in my opinion, a leg up like this is because once the active supply that's on the market in a given day is gone, enough people who still have this product are still so confident that it's going to keep going up, and they don't have a need for the capital in the short term, that it doesn't make these gradual jumps from like 350 to 375 to 4 to 415 to 425 over the course of multiple years, because all the people who think it's worth 450 also think it's worth 1,000. And so they sit on it. And so there's not like a huge re-entry of people who sell when they've made $50 or $100 or $200 on their money, because they think there's a really strong chance for them to continue to make 3 or 4 or 5 or 800. Or if we're talking about the Sun and Moon boxes or X and Y, they're proving to like 5, 6x really quickly. Like Ancient Origins, I think just sold for like $8,000. I sold one in October for 1,000. And so people think, the people who are sitting on these boxes more than ever think that they can continue to go up, and they don't need the capital in the near term. And so the supply of boxes on the market at any given time is very small. And if it gets scooped up, then it can make jumps and jumps and jumps until it reaches that next level of people who are holding, who are willing to move it at a certain price. And what we're showing at right now is that the current ceiling for Lost Origin, or the current pressure point, is at what? Like, it's like $800 a box.
Yeah. It is actively climbing. So the market price is like way lagging behind the actual recent sales and the low list, which is what I was pulling up here. The price of this box is essentially, it's already $800 really. And it, like to your point, the people who are, like people might be listing, like if we see a lot of these around 1,000, it's sort of, so they start, there's a kind of this, like, there's a number of them around 1,000. Like there's a lot of people that think this box is heading that way and they don't need the capital right now, and they'll just wait till people are ready to pay $1,000 for it. So this sort of movement is unbelievable. And it is, I totally agree with you also on the point around rip and chippers. Like I've made this point before that the growth in that type of content and that way of interacting with the hobby and buying things online is leading to a really unprecedented amount of older, like out of print product being opened up, and that demand for it being higher than before as well. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of some content creators talking about how some of the bigger players in the industry, they have these mystery pack products that have 4 or 5 packs in each thing or in each envelope or whatever, and each pack is from a different generation. Well, how are you going to get those packs other than opening up boxes? Like
Right.
you're not just going to find enough of the loose pack or the collection box with a cheaper per pack price anymore for a lot of these sets. Like you got to dip into the sealed collection of someone who's willing to sell you all these at at a big number. So yeah, it's a fascinating topic, and I think the
Yeah.
other thing that plays along into it is we never before have been in a place where there isn't a single box on the market that is less than $200. Like, what's the cheapest booster box right now? Is it Scarlet Violet base
That's
or
what came to mind.
Stellar Crown maybe? But
That
it's
was my
over
guess.
200 regardless. And so if we're in that kind of demand environment, then a rising tide raises all boats, right? So if you have Scarlet and Violet base at 225,
Yeah.
well, there's a certain amount of demand for that. But how much more demand is there for something like Lost Origin in comparison? And then you have the number, and that's kind of what you see. It's very realistic for someone to want a Lost Origin box 3 times as bad as they want a Stellar Crown box.
Yeah.
Like that's a reasonable thing right now. Stellar Crown's relatively new, not as many chase cards. It's in a generation that people still kind of, have a very fond or very strong memory of, as far as the percentage of people who were in the hobby that are still in the hobby. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people who were not around when Lost Origin was released. And so they don't have any sort of like pricing memory about it being a $85 box when the reprint happened.
Yeah, it's wild, man. It was not long ago that you could buy these for like under $100 on TikTok shop, and you
Yeah.
could hardly give them away. Um, yeah, it is. No, I think Paradox Rift is the lowest right now. Battle Styles was a good shout, but yeah, incredible. Someone said,
Battle
"What?"
Styles is the ugly stepchild of the entire hobby right now. It's like older than so many of these sets and yet so much cheaper because it was printed to oblivion and nobody wanted it.
Totally. Yeah, it has what, one good card in it?
Stop. How dare you? It has an Empoleon too.
Okay, 2. Sorry, 2 good cards. That Empoleon is cool. Yeah, so Fusion Strike was an interesting. I mean, this looks exactly like the Lost Origin graph.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
wild.
And then I guess my Gyarados of reality was something that I realized just this past Sunday while I was in Vegas at Front Row. And do me a favor, Ricky, actually pull this up for me as
Oh
well.
yeah.
Head over to Evolving Skies sleeved booster packs. So what I'm seeing is on some of these sets, we're seeing the individual packs catching up to the per pack price of a box. So the lowest list right now for
Mm,
a sleeved pack on TCG is $60.
mm, wow. Well,
And
yeah.
60 times 36 is right under 2,200, which is pretty
Mhm,
close to the sealed box price, which tells
mhm,
me that the box is probably primed to move again,
mm.
because you see, for the most part, a larger delta between a sealed box and then a whole bunch of packs. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Evo Skies moving up towards 3K in a not very distant future, guys. It's just
This
we keep doing this same old song and dance.
this light blue bar in the background represents sale volume. And so it's interesting you're saying this, because I don't think you looked at this prior to this conversation. The sale, look at how high that it's the all-time high sale volume. Like today, the last 2-3 day stretch, more of these boxes have sold than any other point in the last 3 months on TCG Player. So that does suggest that people are happy to eat them up around this price. It's wild.
Yeah.
Interesting observation, man, on the sleeve booster pack. That's very very insightful, wise. The
Well,
observant.
it kind of happened by luck, because on Saturday when I was working a deal with another vendor, because he had like 100 of these sleeved packs, and I'm just an Evolving Skies fiend. I can't get enough, and so I offered to buy all of them, and we came to a price of $40 per pack. And I was like, in the moment, I was like, oh yeah, that's a strong offer. And then I got home on Sunday night, and the lowest list is 60. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my goodness, like I accidentally cooked a vendor, but you never know what's going to happen. So it's incredible stuff.
The last box of Evolving Skies I got was at the very end of my last show. I knew that I was going to take a few months off of shows because I had a really busy summer, and so I went around with all of my modern slabs and started trading them. So I think if if James Townsend, the mod, is in the chat, he can verify that he manned my booth for like 20 minutes while I went around to vendors with stacks of modern PSA 10, like alt arts and SIRs, and traded them into these booster boxes. And I got an Evo Skies box for Greninja from Twilight and like one other $300, like about I gave him like 1,100 or something of slabs.
Yeah.
And literally like the next day it went up, and I was like, oh no, I accidentally cooked event. I had the exact same feeling of like, let me see if I can find it. This was like in May. It was like right here. They were at 1,300 forever. And then it went up to like 16. Like this show was on May 10th. Look at what happened on that. So literally goes up like $300 or $400 for the box. I was like, oh no, I cooked them. But it's totally like you said, you just can't know.
Yeah, exactly. You have no way of knowing. And I put that comment up from about Sav Hype earlier. Sav Hype Mike, he's the guy that I bought all the sleeve packs from. Great guy, great vendor. And what a crazy time to be involved. And I posted on my Instagram today just a big fat spread of Evo Skies stuff that I have stashed away. And I asked the question, is this the best set of all time if we don't take if we don't take print quantity into account? And I mean, the numbers, I would say so. As far as like the speed at which this set has appreciated in price,
Yeah.
it's the strongest ever. Like what has moved faster than this set?
I don't know. I percentage wise, maybe there are some things, but no, I mean, if you're thinking, by best you mean like you're talking about value, yeah, man. It's
Best, I guess, yeah. The only way, there's a million ways to say, but I'm going to say like garnering the most demand, right?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, we'd have to do some thinking. Maybe that's a topic we bank for another day. Maybe it's a far-fetched idea.
Exactly.
We've got, who is it? Your son is here with a far-fetched idea about 35-40 minutes after that segment, but we can give him some airtime.
Yeah, this is my young son, Arvin, thinks
baby
that
boy.
Pikachus are undervalued. If that's the case, Arvin, send me a DM. I've got some ponchos. I'll let you buy them for full sticker. I would be that guy, and I would let you do that for me.
Wow. Full sticker.
Yeah.
Not above market?
He's going to cook me on it.
Oh, I mean, come on. Well, that's why you sticker it above market, and then he cooks you down to what you would actually normally sticker.
What actual market is. Great point.
Yeah.
You're going to do great this weekend, Ricky. You know how it goes.
Thanks, man. Yeah. I really like to make sure there's no good deals at my table. I really want people to feel bad about doing deals with me.
Well, maybe we should dive right into our main topic, our main event, and then we can get into the Q&A and have some fun with the people in the chat.
Let's do it, man. Yeah, we are totally pacing behind. This one's going to be a long one. This show is just going to be a longer episode, I guess, because we just jabbered for an unprecedented amount of time. But we have a fun topic for the day. You and I could easily spend 5 hours on it. We'll try to keep it to 20 or 30. But what do you think, man?
Yeah, let's dive in. I love talking about this. As much as I love talking about Evolving Skies, I also love talking about card shows. So The main topic of today, guys, is what's the future of the card show, and specifically is the momentum and the frequency and the growth of these shows all over the country, all over the world, going to keep going, and where does it stop? Because Ricky and I were talking, about when I first started to vend, and when Ricky was getting more familiar, with vending. It might be a couple of weeks in between any sort of local show, maybe months. I mean, when I first vended, it was like there were three, maybe I think two, maybe three different uh, individuals slash organizations that were putting on card shows that were in maybe within an hour and a half of where I live here in Utah. And they were very small, all of them. Many of them were like 20 tables, 25 tables, 40 tables, and most of those tables were sports card dealers.
Mm.
And now, especially in these large metropolitan areas, LA and the Bay Area, and Dallas, Texas, and the tri-state area, New Jersey, New York, etc. Like, there's a card show right down the street with hundreds of tables every single weekend, it seems. And there's new vendors, new shows popping up all the time. The crowds are as long as they've ever been. Like, again, I'm going to say it again because it's so insane. West Coast Card Show this weekend, starting tomorrow, has 1,200 tables. That's like 30% larger than Collecticon.
It's absurd. Yeah. 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 The biggest shows here in the Bay Area, and we have a really healthy show scene here. It is like you said, it's almost every weekend. There's a show with, it's like 150 tables is pretty typical, 150
Yeah.
vendors, 200 tables. And that's like a pretty good size show. Like, as a buyer, it would take you a few hours to get through with the crowds and everything. You could easily spend 4 hours at a 100, 150 table show. And we are talking 1,200 vendors.
1,200 vendors. Yeah, it's incredible. And when I went to West Coast in February, granted they don't do only cards. Like, there's going to be memorabilia sellers, and there's going to be retail businesses that have big booths, and the whole bit, just like you would expect at a big convention like this. But we're still talking about 40,000 anticipated patrons going through the two rooms or the three rooms that they're going to have.
Yep.
And yeah, so that's indicative of record demand.
Yeah.
It's indicative also of a record number of people feeling like they have the capability to vend at a show and earn money and earn a profit, have it be worth their time, worth the risk of bringing their cards and learning the skills and techniques and getting the equipment and all the things that go into preparing to be a vendor, for example. You've just got record demand and growth in all of those areas.
Yep.
Where does it stop? Are we going to see a plateau?
I mean, I've got some thoughts on this. You and I, so a few topics that come to mind around this, right? It's the frequency of these shows. It's the size of these shows. It's the attendance at these shows. It's how competitive it is to get a table at these shows. It's the types of locations they're popping up. Are they becoming common outside of major metro areas? One that I think you and I can talk about related to like frequency and new ones popping up is you were telling me that you frequently get DMs on Instagram or emails here, whatever it is. You get contacted by people who are like, hey, we're doing a show in such and such area, and it's going to be 50 or whatever tables, and could we get you out here? And when, as soon as you said that, when we were kind of preparing for this last week, I was like, yeah, dude, one of my friends around here, he's a vendor, a regular vendor around here, is hosting his first show on September 27th. Just announced it, locked down the venue and everything. And and another thing we were talking about is, I think that same weekend there's another show in the Bay Area, and you were talking about being down at Front Row, and there was another major one competing right at the same weekend.
The last time I was, yes. So there's going to be Front Row the weekend after West Coast Card Show. There's Front Row San Diego the same weekend that the Collectors Expo is
Right.
in Anaheim, I think.
Yeah. So like
Like
an
those
hour or
are
two
those
apart.
like Collectors Expo is huge.
Yeah.
And they do all sorts of stuff. It's like an anime popcorn and the whole deal. And so the fact that, and actually here's a funny story. I was before they announced before they announced publicly that the Front Row San Diego show is going to be that weekend, I was in conversations with the Collectors Expo people to, get some tables down there and to show up and vend at that show. And then I learned that the Front Row show was going to be there.
Mhm.
And the Collectors Expo representative I was talking to was like, they had no idea that the Front Row show was going to happen. Like, we're talking about like a primary competitor who's going to pull in thousands of attendees from the same geographical area, and they didn't even know it was going to happen. And the thing is that both shows that weekend, I bet you, are going to have record attendance.
Totally. They're going to have hundreds of vendors each and be packed. Yeah. Yeah. So that's we'll maybe I'll sprinkle some of these thoughts in around like maybe some of the signals to watch, and maybe we can summarize like the signals to watch if it's going to slow down. I mean, probably eventually it has to at least plateau. I can't just like go on forever because eventually it just oversaturated, right? Like if the Bay Area has 4 card shows in the same weekend, you are going to start dividing up. The vendors are going to choose which show they want to go to. The buyer's going to choose what show they want to go to. And the shows that don't get that attendance are not going to be viable in the long run. So 2 on a competing weekend and an hour apart from each other seems super viable. And it's happening all the time. And like I said, even with these major shows, and they don't even know that they're head to head with another major show. But I do think if we get to the place where a major metro area within an hour or so of each other has 3 or 4 shows on the same weekend, if that starts happening regularly, I would think that is essentially like a top signal for card show popularity, because 1 or 2 of those 4 shows is going to get kind of cooked, right? It's going to barely have any foot traffic. It's not going to get the best vendors in the space, right?
Yeah. Well, then again, like once we start talking on that line of conversation, we're talking about marketplace competition between these show organizers, right?
Right.
And in that case, I think the Pareto principle, like we're going to have 80% of the people are going to end up going to 20% of the shows just because they're perceived to be better, or maybe they're an earlier adopter, they're longstanding, have better credibility, or whatever it may be. And so some of the prime names they're going to keep growing. Like this past year, Collecticon in 2024 did however many shows, and I think they scheduled like 80% more for 2025.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if they don't open for more cities next year.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Front Row and West Coast. They are a big time show, obviously, out here on the West Coast. But I'd be surprised if they don't try to spring for more shows next year than they did in years past. And so you'll have some of the big names and continue to do well, and then the smaller shows are going to have to find some sort of competitive advantage for them to continue to operate.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really, like, the competition between shows doesn't really explain or answer whether or not the demand for shows is going to change, because you can always have a longer line at Collecticon. So
Totally.
what's going to have to happen for people to decide that they don't want to attend? Because that's kind of the primary driver, right? Is ticket sales and attendance.
Well, maybe you can share on this, because as we were just in the waiting room right before the stream, you were telling me you were or maybe, I don't know, whatever. Today you were telling me that you were noticing a bit of a shift in sort of like buying versus selling behavior a little bit. Curious if you're open to sharing a little bit about that for the chat, and then like, what are your thoughts on it? Like, clocking it, nervous about it, excited about it, unconcerned?
Yeah, so I just did back-to-back Collecticon Charlotte and then Front Row Vegas. So those are 2 primary shows on opposite sides of the country, right? And I would say both shows ended up being much more me buying things from patrons than them buying things from me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's maybe an indicator that there are a number of people who are feeling more and more comfortable with the idea of their items have gone up in value, and so they want to cash out or trade out into something bigger or whatever it may be in person, because there is so much evidence that you can do that smoothly and you can have a very fair transaction with these vendors at a card show. And so I think that is an interesting data point in this conversation, but it isn't telling the whole story, because that's more of like maybe a sign of whether or not certain cards have increased in value, and so people would want to cash out of them. The fact that those people, whether they're buying or selling, whether they're intending to go to the show to spend money or leave with more money in their pocket than they came, they're still going to the show. It's still seen as this safe and appropriate place to do transactions for thousands and thousands of dollars of collectibles. So, okay, and this is an interesting comment. Professor CVC says, that's surprising to hear I was a net buyer. Yeah, I was definitely a net buyer at both shows.
Yeah.
The math is mathing in that direction in a strong way, which is, I mean, from a business standpoint, I have no complaints about it. I'm okay with this, but I'm more interested in the conversation about what does that mean about the market of the card, and what does that mean about the demand for these shows, right? So that's just kind of another data point.
Yeah. Yeah. My immediate gut reaction would be that it could be a bit of a top signal on the market if people are like really interested in coming to these shows to sell, but it would be a tailwind for shows. And so one of the thoughts I had about one of the things I had thought about prior to this about shows is this concept of shows as a third space, which I've talked about in some videos before, but we're kind of in an increasingly, in some ways, disconnected and more connected than ever in other ways society, and people are shorter than they used to be on community spaces and ways to find interaction and build community. And I think those sorts of things are at essentially a slight premium right now. And I think with card shows, what you get is this social, dynamic, energetic environment with people who are like-minded. They have similar interests to you, whole variety of different backgrounds and economic statuses, which I love that sort of like variety of people in a community.
Yeah.
It's a family activity. Like if you have kids, you can take your kids, and it's like you spend maybe not, maybe some kids, depending on their age, won't have a full day's worth of patience for it, but an hour or two. And at a card show, we talked a little about this in a previous stream. You spend $1,000 on collectibles that are currently in a bull market. You did not spend $1,000. And you had made this amazing point, this great analogy about fine dining, and that if you could go out to a great restaurant, spend $1,000, and somehow retain 800 or 1,000 of that $1,000, everyone would go to expensive restaurants way more. But because that $500 meal really burns $500 and you can't get it back, it's still worth it, but you're only going to do it like, on special occasions. Whereas you could go to a card show every weekend and drop $1,000 with your kids, and you had fun, and you did not burn $1,000, depending on what you bought, but odds are you didn't burn $1,000. And in the market like this one, you make money. So if you're a dad and you have to explain that to your wife, you're like, I'm going to the show, I'm going to sell out all the stuff. I bought a bunch of stuff with the kids over the last few weekends, spent $9,000 over the last 9 weekends, and now it's worth $12,000. So now I'll use that $3,000 and we'll go to Disneyland. Like, there's just, I think that like you get the dopamine and the experience of being in a place with people, socializing, negotiating, buying things. You get spending dopamine, but it somehow feels quite a bit more justifiable financially. It's not as financially foolish a way to spend $1,000 as whatever, anything that burns it, right? Not that a trip to Disneyland or whatever isn't worth it, but like, that money's gone once you spend it. So that's another thought I had about card shows that I think is really fascinating and relates to what you're saying. Like people go to the shows to sell, and then they have money, and then they buy, and then they go back. Like the feedback loop is really strong.
Yeah, that's such a it's such a huge point, Ricky. And as while we're talking about tailwinds that are kind of buoying up the strength of the card show market, right? The prevalence of these shows and how many people are attending them. One thing that people ask me, that when they ask me, hey, what's going on with these card shows? Why are they busier than ever? What's with this huge vendor boom? Um, One of the things that I talk about frequently is the impact of technology on the community of people and their ability to feel confident about what's going on at a card show. In the
Yeah.
past, and we've all kind of maybe been through this, you go to a flea market or a swap meet or whatever it might be called back in the day, something that feels kind of like a card show,
Yeah.
and you don't really know if the items that you bought are worth what they are stickered at, worth what you paid, authentic. You don't know if they can retain value, if they're even functional. Like, there's a lot of speculation, and that's why some of these shows that popped up in the 20 teens about like storage wars and pawn stars and all that kind of stuff were super fascinating, because there was this small subset of people who somehow had gained the knowledge necessary to be able to find all the diamonds in the rough
Mm,
in these maybe obscure places where there wasn't value to be found with the standard eye. But now you've got 15 different apps and huge aggregated data to show you that the thing that you're buying is worth exactly what you're paying, or maybe even a little more if you can negotiate with the vendor. And so you can go to a card show and you can spend $10,000 and walk out with $11,000 of cards.
but
And
yeah, I mean,
that
you're telling me I built a whole YouTube channel on that.
Yeah,
On that.
exactly. I'm preaching to the choir here. Oyama walks in, spends 5,000, and gets $50,000 worth of cards.
Okay, come
And
on.
he grades them with PSA, and they're all PSA 10. So excuse me, I'm talking to the chat here.
Yeah, yeah,
But that phenomenon is not just caused by popularity of an IP. It's caused by technology reinforcing the confidence of the marketplace of
yeah,
buyers. And things like alt and things like price charting and things like eBay sold listings and all the other places where you can go look, it is changing the game
yeah,
for people being involved in a hobby like this that is expensive, yes, speculative, yes,
yeah.
but now has a solid track record.
Dude, great point. I hadn't even really thought critically about the accessibility of that market value information. Like, the number of times I've dealt with a kid under 14 years old who like really knows how to look up a comp, how to compare a value. It's You're right. It's at everyone's fingertips, and that's definitely contributing to people feeling safe at card shows and spending money in those environments. I think it's a great take.
Yeah.
Um, you'd kind of posed, so like, what would it take to slow down or reverse course? I think maybe the obvious one is like macroeconomic pressure. Like, if there's a big recession, then this type of spending, um, from a buyer standpoint, probably goes down, and people who maybe end up in a situation where they need or really just want the cash liquidity might be more inclined to go to a show and sell. And that might be an indicator. That's one of the reasons I asked you about your experience at the last few shows is, um, it's not concerning when these shows are happening all the time and the demand is at an all-time high. But if 5 weekends in a row you are selling 20 grand of cards and buying 26 grand of cards, at a certain point you start to think like, okay, like you start to maybe pay closer attention to who's buying them and who's selling them and why they're selling them. And I think that would be doubly important to pay attention to if there is a economic shift. Like, let's talk here in the US, if there's a downturn, if there's a recession, if
Yeah.
inflation rates go way higher or something like that. I think that's probably an obvious potential downward pressure on the current like growing popularity of shows.
Yeah.
What do you think?
That's the only one that really jumps out to me as like something that would be existentially impactful to the entire card show scene right now. And just to double down on what you said, we're talking about a phenomenon that has happened many, many times, where if the entire economy shifts downwards, the average person moves what they can of their assets into assets they perceive as very safe. Things like, savings accounts and certificates of deposit and money market accounts and things like that.
Yep.
Very standard phenomenon.
Yep.
Now, maybe a shout out for the people in the chat, for those who are listening. It's exactly at that time when you'd like to have a little bit of a liquidity to go and buy these things, because being a little bit greedy when others are fearful is a great way to get a leg up if you have confidence in the long-term value of something. So that's an obvious shout out.
Yeah.
But other things that can affect the card show scene, probably just the general sentiment of the patron and vendor relationship. I think if we just kind of get absolutely blown up by videos, for example, of vendors taking advantage of patrons, or whatever it may be, that's the kind of thing that I think can change sentiment just as much as the opposite has changed sentiment in the favor of the growth of the card show scene. I think it's no accident that, people like Bulbasaur or Coop or myself or you or many others who are making content in regards to card shows and the experience a patron can have or a seller can have, being very positive and putting it all out there for people to learn from and gain information from, has definitely impacted the growth of it. But social media impacts sentiment in a lot of ways, and it could impact it to the negative.
I completely agree. I had written that down as one of my bullets on this as well. If holding on to cards from a price standpoint starts to feel anxiety inducing, if anything negative comes in, right? Like you said, the interactions between vendors, you talked about that feeling of safety earlier. If like the sentiment around like greedy scalpers or people who are only in it for the money, or part of the fun of going to shows for me, certainly, and probably obvious for anyone who's watched my channel more than once, is the interaction, the negotiation. It's really fun. It's like lighthearted, it's low stakes, but it has this sort of energy of bartering. And if that ever just goes away, like one of the recent shows I went to as a buyer, and everyone's like, nope, can't budge. It's all going up. Everything's going up. I'm sticking above market, take it or leave it. That was a less fun show for me, but I understood, of course, where people are coming from. I'm an experienced showgoer, but if that was your first show ever, that would be a little bit of an intimidating first show ever. Like that was definitely not the most fun I've ever had at a show. And it's much more fun when people are sort of like, having a good time and willing to trade. Another thing, I mean, we talked about safety. I think you're talking about like mental and emotional safety in that context, but physical safety is another one where, fortunately, we haven't had any like major incidents at these shows. And I think that people have upped security, but like people stealing things from vendors, someone in my local area was robbed at gunpoint in the parking lot leaving a show. If that becomes more of a norm, especially again, if you're a parent and you're going with your kids and you're like, it's going to be a fun thing. Like if it actually becomes physically dangerous to go to these shows, that would definitely deter people. And like you said, that would go viral if something really, and I hope nothing ever does. And
of course,
but like if anything like that were to happen, if anything serious were to happen and it became sort of like national news, that would absolutely be a deterrent for going to shows.
Well, and on that same vein, I'm actually really grateful to see a lot of these shows are spending a lot of the money that they're earning from the increased traffic on security and logistics. And security doesn't just boil down to having more, guys with guns in the rooms to keep everyone safe. It comes down to controlling the room and making sure the flow of people at the right times is happening, and people who aren't supposed to be in certain areas are not there. And I've been around, Front Row and West Coast and Card Party and Collecticon, where there are agendas and there are places where you need to be if you're a vendor and if you're a patron, and you get ushered out at the end of the show and all this kind of stuff. So I'm grateful to see that we're learning lessons and we're spending money and resources where they need to be spent in order to improve not only safety, but perception of safety, like you're saying.
Yeah, agreed. I think those are some of my main points on it. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about on?
Maybe just final words on the topic. I would say that my general sentiment after having been to some of these shows and having many scheduled on my calendar until the end of the year, I'm not seeing any specific signs of slowdown.
Yeah.
And the card shows they are only getting bigger and better, which is exciting. The people who are organizing them are getting better at their jobs, and the people that are attending are getting more experienced in their their savviness in the hobby. The people that are vending are getting more experienced. We're really creating an industry that has existed in other forms for a long time, but specifically in TCG, it's cool to see it really get legs.
Totally. Yes. I love ending on the positive note on that. I'm with you. I absolutely love card shows. It's one of my favorite things about this hobby. Uh, as long as I don't know how you do them every weekend, because it's a lot of energy and a lot of prep, and it's a lot of being on your feet and trying to give everyone an equally positive interaction.
Yeah.
It is super rewarding and awesome, but it's not totally for the faint of heart. But man, I love them. I have also only seen tailwinds, and I expect it to continue to grow for all the reasons that we talked about. It feels it's safe emotionally, mentally, physically, and as you said, the card show organizers are getting better. They're getting better at marketing them. They're getting better at preparing the logistics. They are investing more in security. The local show where we had somebody robbed at gunpoint has way more security now, and they will walk people out to their cars with security. Vendors walk out in groups, which to me just reinforces the community aspect. The people that are doing these robberies they're not from within the community. They just know that there's money at these things, right? Like the community itself is so much of the best of the community you get to see and experience very real time at card shows.
Yeah.
So I think they're just going to keep growing, man.
Agreed. Love it. Love that take. All right, guys, we've
Q&A.
reached the point of no return. Let's get some Q&A going. I see a little bit of witty banter from my friend Arvin talking about buying everybody's ponchos. Yeah, he thinks Mario should be 50K. That's quite a take. We did have a couple of super chats earlier on. One, I think they were both questions. Let me maybe scroll up here towards the top here and find that first one really quick. Here is number one from Lakama. I recently started vending. Should I carry a piece for my personal collection? I usually vend by myself. What do most other vendors do? Carry a piece. Are we talking about a firearm, or are we talking about cards that are in your personal collection? I'm going to say if we're talking about a firearm, I can't advise you to carry a firearm. Leave that in your own free will to exercise what is that? The Second Amendment?
Yeah. The right to bear arms. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I can't advise on it, but I have seen some vendors do it. I understand it. I think the main adjustments I have made are to move the car closer to the venue when unloading, to travel with other people, to look out for other people. I will wear my chest cam, and there are things like that you can do. That would be my recommendation. Just sort of be wise and vigilant and travel in groups.
Don't make yourself an easy target.
Yeah. Yep.
Ronald Shoes, whoever creates a show-specific payment platform and is able to aggregate sales/costs of cards at shows to add to collector/eBay sales will change the hobby forever. Imagine we could track everything. Yeah, this is a huge technology undertaking. And believe it or not, Ronald Shoes, I have actually had I think maybe 4 or 5 times people who are very tech savvy developers reach out to me and ask about, hey, is there a way we could, create an app or something like that would make the vending experience more smooth, or, there's obviously a lot of point of sale happening at these shows that's very manual. How can we improve that? And there is so much to be said about how it could be made better. I just don't know exactly, number one, how you would pay for / monetize this project. And second of all, how do you get enough adoption of your tool for it to be like the go-to primary place to aggregate all of this data? Because as far as like your competitors in the space, your primary one being eBay, right? As far as having all of the data on hand for what these things sell for, they've been in the game and the go-to name logo for like 20 years. That's tough to compete with. Well, any
Yeah.
take on this? Obviously, you're in tech, you're in AI there, Ricky. You know a little bit more than me on this.
I've had people reach out to me too. So I wonder if it's some of the same people trying to think through like the best ways to solve the operations of essentially running a card show business. One thing I question is whether people would want this, like whether vendors would want this, to be honest with you. Now, like I personally am, generally speaking, I advocate for transparency in these sorts of things. And I think it'd be great to democratize access to this information. There are plenty of people for whom hustling at shows and having and networking at shows and like being at all these shows is one of their competitive advantages in this. And they wouldn't want you to know what these things are buying and selling for. So they wouldn't use something like this. And you have to somehow incentivize those people to use it, I think, in the monetization strategy. This is a hard one to pull off. But if it could be pulled off, I think it would be a very positive and healthy thing for the buyer and collector side of the community, especially, which as very much a buyer POV guy at heart, that's hard for me not to be supportive of and an advocate for. But this would be a hard one to pull off.
Yeah, this is an unregulated market of speculative goods, and in a market like that, the people who willingly make this their line of work truly value the power of information, and not only information, but information that's uniquely beneficial to them. And so like you said, it would be tough to get a lot of adoption on this from the people who are actually selling a lot of these things.
Yeah, agreed. What are we both most excited to see in Pokemon as we head into 2026, both in terms of where the hobby is headed and in our own personal journeys?
This is a huge question, Sumus. You got an hour? Should I go first?
Yeah, please.
I mean, the very simple answer, I'm very excited to see what the Pokemon Company decides to do for 30th anniversary. If it's anything like the 20th anniversary, which I wasn't really present for from a collecting standpoint, I'd be really excited about that because Generations is a great set, and they also came out with a lot of cool video game stuff. There's a 20th anniversary Nintendo 3DS with like Charizard, Blastoise designs on it that is so cool that I have, and I would love to see them do like some really crazy cool Nintendo Switch stuff for the 30th anniversary as far as like consoles and games and whatever. But then my personal journey, like Ricky kind of alluded to, and it may not appear like this from the outside, but me and my wife and now Trey, the Jarvitar, like we are working extremely hard. As far as like number of hours we're putting in to build this business and find the right balance between content creation and new content and existing content, and obviously the card sales and traveling. And I mean, I have a bias towards this work, and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing it. It doesn't feel as much like work as maybe other things I could be doing, but I'm very easily putting in 80 hours every week, like very easily. And I love it, but it's also I would love to see that work continue to pay off, and I think that one thing from the outside that may not be as obvious is like when you create a YouTube channel and you get a bunch of subscribers and all these kinds of things, like that doesn't guarantee that you are financially in an excellent place compared to maybe what the perception of YouTube growth and all that kind of stuff might be, because at least from our standpoint, we're reinvesting a ton back into the business to try to not only create some future security for ourselves, but also hopefully just some, to kind of just perpetuate the business at all. Because we don't have, sources of income from a corporate job or whatever. And so we have a hope that we can do this for many years in some form. And so we don't take a lot of, finances out of the business. We try to reinvest it, and there's risk in that, and there's delayed gratification. And so in 2026, I would love to see a little bit more gratification compared to delayed gratification. Hopefully that answers your question.
Nice, man. Thanks for sharing. Love the vulnerability, and not surprising at all that you spend 80 hours a week. I am currently leading up to West Coast Card Show. I am recording a sort of a revisit of a week in the life video that I made a little while back, and how I'm fitting this into my 9 to 5 and my personal life. And I have been exhausted, frankly, and it's been really rewarding, and like I wouldn't rather be doing really much of anything else, but like, man, it is like, I can only imagine if I went full time on it, it would be easy to spend 80 hours, because I could easily on a week like this, working on content, working on sponsors with this stream, preparing for the show, traveling 8 hours to the show, spending 3 full days at the show, taking 3 days off of work. Even with all that, it's I'm definitely easily spending somewhere between 20 and 40 hours on Pokemon this week. And that's awesome. But if I was full time, it would be double. It would be exhausting. So anyway, on my answer to this, so yeah, 30th anniversary, of course, the new sets, of course, the Worlds and Pokemon XP were just announced. Like Pokemon XP was announced as sort of like a parallel event to Worlds. So I think I just saw something about this morning, and it's going to be it's in my neck of the woods. It's in San Francisco next year. So I really intend to go to that. I think that'll be fun. I'm going to Japan in the spring. So definitely very, very ahead on ideas for how I might revisit some of the things that people enjoyed about the previous Japan videos I've done, but also to just like do something really different also, and different from what other creators have done a great job with in Japan. Personal journey wise, man, it's this whole thing has become so much more than I ever thought it was going to when I ripped that first Obsidian Flames ETB and back in 2024. And it's so rewarding. It's like one of the genuine greatest joys in my life, outside of like my wife and my dogs and my family. And it's just I just want to keep doing it and keep enjoying it and keep spending time with people like you, Jake, and people like these folks in the chat. So as long as it just keeps being fun, I don't care whether it's, whatever, 30K subs or 100K subs or full time or part time. It's just it's been just a huge source of joy for me.
Love it.
What
set are you super bullish on in buying cases for Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet? You went into Cosmic heavy and you were right on 2 cases in your PC still, and you're up to ton when it was cheap. Blast Boost, that's the way to do it. Take a nice set, buy some cases, rip some, keep some. As far as sets, seems pretty obvious that I'm into Evolving Skies. That's like a home run of a decision. Obviously, your price point to get in is a factor here. So depending on if you already own some certain sets versus others, Evolving Skies, I would definitely keep versus sell/rip if you have the option. Scarlet and Violet, Paldea Evolved is going to be a strong set. I personally am a big believer in Surging Sparks. And, I think Destined Rivals is an obvious choice as well, but it's hard to get for anything less than $300 a box right now. So those are my answers. What do you got, Ricky?
Yeah, I am not doing anything super targeted in sealed right now. I buy what sort of comes to me, and so I've got a few people I'm actually talking to someone about a $13,000 collection, and it does have some sealed in it, and they are things like Chilling Rain booster boxes. So I don't actually like. I don't obsess over this the way that I used to. Maybe like right around this time last year was probably my peak obsession about watching all the videos about which set and like optimizing that. I think when you look at Lost Origin going up, like it's probably not too late. Is it the most optimized thing? Maybe not. Yeah, I don't know what Chilling Rain is at, but like I really do believe in that set. I think it's a top few set from that era. So if those boxes are still quite a bit lower than Lost Origin and Fusion Strike, then I think Chilling Rain. Yeah, again, I'm totally. I literally do not know what those boxes cost. Maybe you do, Jake. If are they $400 or $500?
Yeah, they're like 450, I think.
Okay, I think that's undervalued.
Yeah, agreed. Chilling Rain is strong, and so is Silver Tempest. And I'm also a believer in Astral Radiance. So all of those still have room to move.
Nice.
Are we going to be going to the Hawaii PopCon in January? Brad, I have tentative plans to be there. Yeah, I do. Actually, I'm hoping to connect with some of the organizers and get a couple tables. I'd love to be there. I've never been to Hawaii, so
Let's go. That's sick. Are you gonna like make a vacation out of it, or
no? We're just gonna go and just only be in the convention center, and then we're gonna fly home and try not to see
okay?
anything else. You know what I
All
mean?
right. Okay. Yeah. Listen, I get that it's a stupid question. You don't have to. You have to make me wear it on a live stream in 4K for everyone to see.
Sorry, that was insensitive. Yeah, we're gonna go. I don't know enough about Hawaii. I don't honestly. I don't even know which island the con takes place on. So I gotta do more research and figure out what's in the region and what it makes sense to just stay on that island the whole time or whatever. But I would say Fran and I deserve a little sunshine, a little vacation, and that'd be great.
Love it for you guys. Josh Pedersen. Hey guys, I'm really curious your thoughts on the new Chinese exclusive, thoughts on the Arcanine, Evolutions, Gengar, Pikachu, etc. Good buys right now. Yeah, last stream we said Arcanine didn't get an SIR, and then someone commented on that in the aftermath. There is a Chinese Arcanine. He is wearing the little crystal hat, but it is pretty sweet.
Yes.
Yeah, you and I talked a little about this last time, so I don't think we need to spend a ton of time on it. So Josh, go back and watch the last two weeks ago stream. We spent some time on this, but yeah, my take was I think they're doing something really interesting there with the Chinese exclusives. Yeah, I don't know what they're all priced at right now. I think the Gengar Pikachu is pretty expensive, so that would be I would be more cautious and do a little bit more thinking there. But generally speaking, the evolutions that are all sleeping, the demand I think will just never be as high as it is for Japanese and English for Chinese. But these exclusives I think will be sought after by collectors, and probably in the long run they will prove to be relatively rare potentially in terms of their scarcity. And so yeah, I'm generally bullish.
Yeah, I think the answer to are they going to be strong cards long term? Yes. Are they going to be? Are they all going to be higher than they are today? That's an impossible question to answer. But the fact that they're exclusive artworks means that they're going to retain value stronger than their counterparts that are not exclusive artworks. So if you can get them for a relatively good price and you want to have them, I think it's a great move.
Yeah.
All right.
Got this one, Sneaky B with the super chat. Thanks, Sneaky. Vending my first show soon. How do you price for condition? PSA says a 7 is near mint. Is that the standard for singles? Yeah, it's a really good, clear, simple question, and not obvious. What do you think, man?
This is a nuanced conversation.
It is.
I would say very practical, loose framework that I am looking at when I'm looking at ungraded cards, especially for vintage. Things that are like worth less than $100 generally. I'm taking more advice from the TCG player breakdown of condition, which you can find on their website, which has to do with like the number of pieces or number of areas of wear / damage that you find on a card, and how it would then be demoted from one level to another based on the quantity of those issues. And so that's kind of a straightforward answer there. So TCG Player has a pretty strong framework for that. When it comes to higher end vintage, gold stars, crystals, shinings, hollows from Skyridge and things like that are just, their value between a 7 and a 9 PSA is like pretty drastic difference between those two. Then I'm going to get more minute. I'm going to get more, I'm going to spend more time thinking / researching, okay, what is the difference between an 8 and a 9? And what are some specific cards I can look at that are graded 8 or 9 that look relatively similar to the raw copy that I'm holding in my hand? Because as a seller of cards, like it's not the best idea for you to sell a raw card, usually to sell a raw card that has some enormous upside if someone was to just grab it from your table and grade it. Like, why wouldn't you want to capture that value yourself? And so if you have like a raw gold star and you look at you can look at copies and see, okay, this is most likely a 5, then you can probably price it with that information in your mind. Now, I don't think it makes sense to price it the same exact price as a 5, because there's still risk involved and there's still the cost of grading and there's unknowns and all that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't necessarily price it according to the MP comps on TCG Player, because there's just so much value difference and subjectivity there. So hopefully that's helpful. Ricky, I don't know if you have another opinion here.
Like you said, it's nuanced, and we could come up with points and counterpoints, I'm sure, kind of all day long on this. I do think it varies a little bit, vintage versus modern, and I tend to be a little stricter on these conditions for modern. So like a 7 realistically has some sort of flaw that makes it sort of not pack fresh. And I think for modern, there's so many people ripping so many packs and putting them straight into a sleeve that any amount of damage that's beyond factory to me is like grounds for it to be considered a little less than near mint. And that might be near mint minus or LP plus because it's got a little gouge in the corner. Like it's a mint card, but it was clearly like dropped while in a sleeve and it has like a little ding in the corner. It's that kind of thing. I might call LP plus, and I would price it between LP and near mint on TCG Player where there's a lot of volume. For vintage, this is much trickier, and I do exactly the kinds of things that Jake was talking about, like compared to especially the middle grades, right? The MP gold stars are the hardest thing to comp fairly, and the best you can do, in my opinion, is to just compare to the scans of graded cards and then sort of be in that ballpark. So it sort of is probably a 5. It probably can't 6 or 7. It probably, so it's an LP minus, an MP plus. I think that's even that condition is something that gets negotiated at shows. And I think any reasonable vendor is willing to talk to you about it. It's interesting you said you're using the TCG Player guidelines more and more. I find myself also sort of like evolving my stance a little bit on raw card grade. I used to be very, very particular when I first got into it. It was like anything wrong. Like I probably would have called cards that really are LP, like MP. I'd probably be like a grade off like that. So as time has gone on, it's become clear that, anyway, I think we've kind of covered it, but the 7 is technically near mint by PSA standards. People will tell you that. Like I've had vendors tell me that when I'm going to buy something. I'm like, this is sort of LP plus. It's got a thing in the corner. They're like, yeah, well, it would get a 7, right? It's 7's in near mint, or you're buying a 7, and they're like, yeah, it's near. I don't know. Anyway, it's different standards, but
it's a conversation no matter what. I guess maybe a piece of game here for you, Sneaky B. If you have a raw gold star at your table, and let's say you have it, let's say it's a Charizard and it's in like okay condition, and you price it at $2,000. If another vendor comes to your table and says, "Hey, this is probably blah blah blah. I think I'm willing to pay you $1,600 for it," that's probably because they think it's worth $2,000 as well. if a vendor's going to come up and make you an offer that's like 15% below your number, it's because they want to buy it and make the margin off of you.
Yeah, that's often true. That's often
Yeah.
true. Yeah, man. Okay, we've got Jimmy. Will you release a collab box fit tee? I'd buy one. Well, we're talking like the Midweek Machamps logo. Hey,
Great idea.
maybe
Great
we talk.
idea. Limited edition or something. Maybe like an exclusive code to access the t-shirt. Now we're talking.
Dang. Tyler Woodhouse, what are your thoughts on Journey Together as an investment? Seems to be a sleeper.
I hesitate to look at anything as an investment that is, already above $200 for a booster box. So that is already 25-ish% above MSRP and still has 2 full years where it could be actively reprinted. That seems to me like, I guess the deeper question here is, how are we defining investment? And by that is, how long are you planning on holding it? Because it's a great set, in my opinion, with cool artwork. But if you buy a sealed case of it today, I think there's a strong chance that sometime in the future, it's cheaper than the price you pay for it today. But on the long term, it's inevitable that it's going to be at some point in the future more expensive than what you paid today. So what's your time horizon, Tyler? That's the question.
Yeah, I totally agree. When Journey Together came out, it was, if I'm not mistaken, the reintroduction of trainers cards for the first time in a very long time. And beyond what we see in the trainer gallery and stuff, like true to the TCG trainer cards,
Right.
non-full art cards with the trainer's face in them, like very kind of throwback feel. So it definitely gave me a very sort of nostalgic vibe. And then the era sort of stuck with that, like more sets had that sort of theme to it, like the rocket sets and stuff, and they kind of kept one-upping it in the SV era. So I do think Journey Together is sort of slept on for that reason. It's almost the same way that like Stellar Crown is slept on. It's these sets that sometimes kind of get like, they're good sets, but they kind of get sandwiched between others, or they have something else not go, like Stellar Crown's a really small set, so it's kind of easy to master set. Like there's all these different sort of considerations that go into it, but yeah, man, I think Journey Together, I think it holds up. But you're right, Jake. It's a new set. Odds are good that it will reprint and it will go down. I'm one of those people who is guilty of. I bought Japanese 151 boxes when they were $200, and then I watched them go down to 50, and then I did just buy a bunch more, and now they're like 200 again or something. But yeah, like that kind of thing can happen. Like they flooded, absolutely printed into oblivion that set, and they could totally do the same with Journey Together. And so what's your time horizon is always the answer to this question when you boil it down.
Yeah. This is kind of like a piggyback on someone's question earlier, a little bit more self-reflective. Yeah, Poke Pursuit, my goal, my long-term goal, my like overarching goal has changed recently. And it really is now to get to the point where I can very confidently make a strong job offer to my siblings if they want to join in and do this business with us, and for it to be something that is like financially beneficial for them, along with being fun and more whimsical than working, a standard job. And yeah, I'd love to be in a place to at least offer that to them, and not that they have to take it or feel pressured, or maybe they don't even like it, but yeah, to be able to kind of get the whole crew back together again and do something together would be kind of what I'm aiming for.
That's beautiful, man. That's sweet. What lucky siblings. What lucky siblings.
Well, I mean, working with me, that it sounds okay, I guess, but maybe it's not that great.
I'm sort of working with you on this, and I can confirm it is its own unique form of torture.
And that's all we have for today, folks. And this is Midweek Machamps.
No, that's beautiful, man. I love that. For me, because I'm not full time at this, I don't think in goal terms as much. The one goal I had when I started selling cards was to pay off my collection. And I did that. And of course, the collection has grown since then. And so have sort of the profits from the hobby. I actually haven't really like reset a new goal. I don't look at vanity metrics for myself as goals. Like, would it be, I definitely want that YouTube silver play button. I mean, for sure. What needs to happen? I don't know, man. Y'all continue to interact in the hobby, interact with the content, show up to things like this, continue to make it so fun that I just can't stop doing it, and eventually that'll happen. So that is the one sort of true, like maybe ego or vanity thing. I just think that play button would look really good in my house. And I think I have a very unique, maybe once in a lifetime opportunity to achieve that. Like I know you already have, Jake. So growing up on YouTube, very much like I have for a long time watched more independent creator content than like network television or high budget production, and have always sort of looked up to that. So yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say I've got a specific goal of hitting 100,000 subscribers by some date. I don't care what the date is. I plan to keep doing this, and I just hope that that'd be fun to have that happen. I can't sit here and say that I have the goal of going full time, because I don't find my job miserable, and I'm very fortunate and privileged to work in tech, which is like, it's safe. I work from home most of the time. I get paid pretty well. It's very it's just I'm in a really lucky position, and I don't necessarily aspire to necessarily shake that up a ton. But if it got to a place where it was like obvious that I should pursue this full time, that it would be hard not to seriously consider that, and then to set that as a goal. So there's definitely like part of me that is thinking about like, what would it take to feel that way? And actually, I don't know what the answer is. What would need to happen? I don't know, but maybe I'll just feel it when it comes, if it comes.
Yeah. Love it.
Oh, I think we were putting up the same one.
Oh, my bad. eBay seller for 10 years. Recently started vending, and you inspired me to make content. Oh, thank you for saying that. Just made YouTube account yesterday, posted TikTok, IG. What's your advice to avoid burnout? Well, I think for me personally, speaking just for me personally, I don't think one of the reasons I'm doing this is because it's the kind of work that doesn't lead to burnout. In my opinion, burnout really has to do with doing something that's laborious that you don't find meaning in. And because life is work, and so you'll always be working on something. And so for me, this is kind of a line of work that I don't feel is meaningless, and it's fun for me. And so I can feel like I can work all day long. But what maybe the burnout that does exist for me is just an imbalance. And by that, I mean, there's already been times where my self-care routine has gotten out of whack. And so I'm just like, comparatively tired or emotionally dysregulated or not happy with myself. And most of that comes down to exercise, sleep, and healthy eating, while I'm also, working on this business because it's entrepreneurial pursuit and I love it. Like at that nexus, there's this place where I can wake up in the morning and feel like I should be working on this business for every waking moment, and then go to bed exhausted, and then wake up the next day. And there doesn't need to be time for, meal prep and going to the gym and having a community outside of my home, and, making sure I'm getting enough sleep and going to bed at the same time, and just all those self-care things. So that can lead to the kind of burnout that I think could happen to me. But, so I guess I would just say you need to schedule time for yourself, and you need to, especially once you can get to a point where you're not like in financial emergency mode, if you can have some savings and you don't have to be earning every second of the day, you can start to take better care of yourself. And just remember that your investment in yourself is also an investment in your business, because your ability to show up and to be clear-minded and be self-confident and feel good in your body and in your mind is going to allow you to work harder and bring your better self to what you're doing.
Beautifully said, man. I could not agree more. Something that I saw recently, and it really resonated. It's very related to what you're talking about there. And then I'll give my take on this as well, Polka Collector. But the CEO of LinkedIn sleeps like 8+ hours a night. And that's very against the hustle culture CEO of a big company. Like it's people sort of romanticize the sleeping 3 hours and hustling and all that stuff. And he's like, nope, sleeping properly is an investment in my execution during the day. If I make a single slightly better decision, the cumulative impact of that every single day is so substantial. And I completely agree with that. I've really reinvested recently in my own health and sleep. Just being more disciplined there definitely helps. Pokelot Collector, another thing I would say here is one thing you have going for you is that you've been an eBay seller for 10 years. Now, if you've done that consistently, you know what that grind is like, and you have it in you to do something consistently for 10 years. And most people do not have that. Or at least they don't have that for endeavors like these, right? For every endeavor they set themselves on. That is a relatively rare trait. And so you've already got that in you to stay consistent. And bless you, Jake. And that's outed. You hit the mute in time though. That was nice. Yeah, eBay seller for 10 years, man. You've got it in you. The other thing I would say with the content is to go at a steady pace. I think I see people get into content and then they go hard on it and then they burn out. Like I see this a lot with how many, sort of raise your hand in the chat if you know someone who started a podcast and it didn't make it to episode 10. It's like, it's exciting to start something new. And then you do 10 episodes of a podcast in 9 days and then you're kind of like burn out on it. And you'll know if it's for you pretty early on, but you don't need to like post 5 times a day. Don't put pressure on yourself. It's your own schedule. You're not competing with anybody really. And if you can, one thing that helps me is to plan content ahead a little bit. I get, it gives me something to look forward to, and it helps me stay disciplined on consistency if I'm not like scrambling every week to figure out what my video for that week is going to be. I know roughly when my next PSA return is coming, and I slate a video for around then. I know when I'm going to go to a card show as a buyer or a vendor. I know when I'm traveling to card party in Seattle or Japan in April. So planning those things ahead can give you something to look forward to and help you pace things appropriately.
Love it. Fatty Matty, yes, you are not the only person to ask this question. Right here, I need the Alt Art Charizard V promo, the sleepy one next to the tree. That's the last one I need for the trio.
Nice.
And then up here where you can't see, I actually need the Arceus V Alt Art from Brilliant Stars to complete all 4 of the Alt Art God cards. So just some small ones that I need left on here. Nothing too momentous, but thank you for asking.
From Mikey, how would you price an item that's low pop with very little recent sales data, or how would you negotiate it from a buyer perspective? Besides looking at seller's floor, the purchase price. Yeah. Great question, Mikey. I almost want, like, I think maybe it'd be fun for you to take a vendor point of view and me to take a buyer point of view on this one.
Oh, let's do it. Yeah. So I do this frequently. I have cards right now in my inventory that I have one that's pop 6. I have one that's pop 20. With especially, and no, neither of them have sold in this calendar year. And so, there's kind of this hopefully obvious understanding for those who are privy to the market that these low pop cards, especially those in the mid era, have really boomed, and there's comps for maybe cards that are similar to them that are 3 or 5 or 8 times more expensive than they were even just maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And so I would probably look at my card and I need to look at a few things. When was it sold last? And for how much? And what are some other cards maybe that are in a similar class, similar price range that sold back then, and then maybe also sold more recently? And what kind of price multiple have they undergone? And you can look at, okay, is it just as popular of a Pokemon? And again, all this is subjective. Another thing you can look at is, and what eBay sellers do all the time, is what's the lowest list price? Because at the end of the day, for a low population card, if you can't buy it online for less than the lowest list price, then that is kind of a significant data point for the market. Because if a collector who wants that card comes to your table, they can't go anywhere else in their knowledge or your knowledge and get that card for cheaper, because the one that did sell for cheaper than the list price is already gone. It's not able to be purchased. It is now yesterday's price. So
Mm.
that's kind of the calculus I would do in my head as a vendor. I'd look at those things. And then the other thing I do as a seller is I look at, how badly do I need to sell this card? How much did I pay for it? How much do I want to get my capital back out of that card so I can move it into something else? All of those things are specific to me. And therefore, that's why you're going to go to a card show and see one vendor might have a card for one price and the other vendor has the same card for a different price, because every vendor has a different story, different experience with that card. They paid a different amount. They've had it for a different amount of time. They feel a different way about it. And that's going to impact price in a subjective market like this.
Nice. So Mikey kind of followed up with a specific case study, which I think that it's a good place to anchor my response to this.
Yeah.
So one thing that I will totally agree with that you said is the lowest buy it now is one of your best data points if it exists. I think with some of these kinds of cards that Mikey's talking about, I pictured a scenario where there is not one for sale, or if there is, it's for an absolutely outrageous price. So
Right.
if there's a buy it now for this card at 20,000, I'm not factoring that in. Is that technically the lowest I could get that for? Yes. Is that anywhere near what the value of this card is? Almost certainly not. So this example, this Gold Star Trico Pop 15 sold December 2023 for 400 and Feb 2025 for 2,800, nothing in between. I would, as a buyer, I would probably look at whether some of the comparable cards for this era. So maybe I would look at Gold Star Mudkip and Gold Star Torchic, and I would be interested in the percentage change between these times. Not the value, because Mudkip and Torchic are probably a little more popular than Trico. It doesn't take into account population. But if like a Gold Star PSA 1 Torchic has sold maybe around a similar time for in October 2023 for 600, and then in March 2025 for 3,500, and then maybe last month for 6,000, then I could look at that and say, okay, well, comparing February 2025's March 2025's market to today's, the premium the sort of appreciation of that Torchic was almost double, right? Like, let's say it went up 80% or something. It went from 3,500 previous sale in March to a 6,000 sale in a month ago in July. I would apply the same sort of like percentage calculation to this. So if in that exact example I just gave you, quick mental math, that this Trico would hypothetically be worth a little under $5,000, give or take. That would be one way that would be definitely one way that I would look at this, is to kind of comp to similar cards if the buy it now data and the sales data is really that hard to come by.
Yep. And this is exactly how something like the real estate market works. For example, a house on my same street, similar size, but it has an updated bathroom, sold last month for this amount. Well, I don't have an updated bathroom, so mine's probably going to go for a little less, but it's still more than maybe last year. So like all of those things, they're all in negotiation.
Yep. Agreed. Do we want to maybe take like one or two more before we have one segment we want to end on? I think we'll be quick on that one, but yeah, one or two more feel right?
One or two more good ones in here.
Yeah. Let's see. Maybe this one. Is someone getting into vending?
How do y'all not get attached to your more valuable cards? Struggling with the idea that my best cards to sell are also the ones I love the most. I love this question. Kristen, this is a something I still do the dance with every single time I come home from a show. And do you want to know why? It's because I legitimately like all these cards, and I'm a collector. My collection is worth both in value and in emotional connection much more than my vending inventory, and that's because I really love this stuff. And so the better question here is, what are your goals? What are you hoping to achieve with your vending? Are you hoping to turn an enormous profit and have disposable income come out of it, or are you hoping to really just grow your personal collection? But I think it's very natural that your more valuable cards are the ones you like the most, because number one, they're probably more sought after. They have more popular Pokemon. They're a bit more rare. They are maybe the chase card of the set. They are probably graded, et cetera, et cetera. And then the other thing about that is, like, intrinsically in your mind, despite maybe your natural inclination to resist this, when things are worth more money, people gravitate towards them. And this is something that is really apparent in like pricing philosophy for products and stuff like that. Like, there's a reason that people really like Apple products. Yes, they're sleek. Yes, they're well engineered, but they're also the most expensive option on the marketplace, giving them the perception of increased value. So that's just how our brains work, guys.
Yeah. Nothing, totally agree with that. I'm gonna add like totally different point of view to this also. One is that for me, my personal collection and what I sell as a vendor are completely distinct compartments in my brain. And that doesn't mean they won't cross over from time to time. Maybe I have something in my inventory and I'm like, I want to keep this. I'm gonna throw this in the binder. And occasionally I flip through my binder and I do that. The Marie Kondo we were talking about. Does it spark joy? Does this card still spark joy? Because this card just went up a lot, and would I rather have that cash? And I have cards that I bought. The black label. I think you have one in your background here, Jake. But PSA 10 probably, the Pikachu looking back stamp box promo.
Yes,
it's one of the best cards ever. I got a black label, my first black label, paid $2,000 when the comps were like 2,400. $5-6 grand now. So of course I look at that card occasionally. I'm like, should I sell this? But I'm like, man, I just love having this. It does still spark joy. I look at it multiple times a day because it's sort of in my hallway. So yeah, it's two completely separate compartments is part of it. Override the logic. And then the second thing is, Scrooston, I hate to be the guy that plugs his own channel, but if you haven't watched my channel, go check out a video I titled I Did It, because the whole reason I started vending was to make the amount of money I spent on my collection irrelevant to me emotionally by making that back in profit. I had spent like $35,000 or something on cards. I was like, that's ridiculous. It's kind of a lot of money. What if I made $35,000 of profit selling cards? Then it doesn't really matter what the value is in my collection. So actually, when you hear me talk about like earlier in the stream, I was like, I don't look at the booster. Like, I have some boxes of Chilling Reign and whatever. Like the Lost Origin, but like I don't look at those things that often. My personal collection, I never look at. I only notice the prices of these are if I have a copy of it for vending, or if it shows up in Instagram, like if it's given to me, if the information is like forced on me. So that's another way you could think about it, is maybe you take some of your vending profits and pay it back to yourself as a way to ignore the values of the things that you choose to keep. That would be my sort of second point of view.
I love it. Should we end on this one?
Yeah, great.
The vendor POV has extremely helped the hobby grow in numerous ways, in your opinion, Julian. What do you think could be some things that could contribute to the expansion of the hobby? What's the best and brightest? What's the next big thing?
Someone in the chat was talking about the growth of the TCG. I think that's interesting. I think Pokemon Champions and Legends ZA, like these things that are happening outside of cards, could bring. I mean, Champions, I think, is really interesting. It's going to really democratize access to VGC, which has historically been like pretty unapproachable. EV training Pokemon and like competing and stuff like it. I mean, it's a huge endeavor to do it anything more than very casually on Pokemon Showdown. And this is going to bring a lot of people into or back into Pokemon who will find their way to cards. So that certainly comes to mind. And then the other things that come to mind are the uninteresting things that they're interesting, but they're uninteresting because we've talked so much about them in this stream, which is the growth of card shows, the growth of live streaming and rip and shipping and stuff. I think those things will continue to introduce more people to the hobby as well.
Yeah, I'm just going to double click on what you said about the growth of live streaming and just this entire sector of live selling. I would say that most everyone in the hobby is familiar with, Whatnot, who's probably the industry leader in as far as live selling in the United States, especially for commodities. And we know it because of collectibles, but like there's a lot of things sold on Whatnot, guys, like crafts and fabric and tools and sporting equipment and tons of stuff. And that industry is growing rapidly in the United States and is already a huge part of foreign markets. And it for reasons that we can all kind of guess, the Pokemon card hobby is like perfect subject matter for live selling.
Yeah,
I mean, the card show growth is an example of that, right? Like we now have the data and the seller base and the buyer base for all these card shows to exist. Well, we can also just remove all of the things that hold a card show back, such as you have to meet at a certain place at a certain time. You have to bring your car and park. You have to have food, and you have to have a free day off of work, and blah, 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 blah. All these other things that don't have to be the case for a live selling experience to take place. And so I'm going to say that, as big as these rip and ships or, singles auctions or whatever is happening today, I think it's only going to get bigger. And I think there are industry leaders who agree with that.
I'm with you, man. Before we go to our final segment and call it a night, we had some other fellow creators, and it really, to me, harkens to our first. What's up, Pokiani? What's up, Brian? Huge fan of this guy's channel as well. I saw our friend Dylan here. He's got a hot take here. Next big thing: opening sealed product for others to watch. Not many people doing that, and I think it's going to catch on. I think he might have a point here.
Yeah, Dylan, you should pioneer that. Would you rip a couple of those black and white boxes you bought this past weekend for us, just to enjoy on your behalf? That'd be great.
Yeah, I would be the others that are watching that.
Yeah, I'd super chat you, Dylan. I'd super chat you $5 if you opened up all those boxes.
I'll double down and make it $10 total. No, but this reminds me of one of the things that we talked about in our very first stream, which is creators helping other creators. You and I in part got connected because I reached out. I cold DM'd you to join my 10K live stream, and we had a great conversation and kind of kept the conversation going. And you kind of made the point like, hey man, the best creators in this space, the folks that are growing, the folks that are doing it right, are supporting each other. And so I couldn't help but notice there are a few creators that I admire that are in the chat right now, hanging out with us, just like we do with them, I'm sure, when we're pricing cards and all that good stuff. So it's a beautiful thing. This is high tides raising ships.
Yeah, I agreed. Thank you all for being here. And again, we have one final segment to touch on before we're done, but I'll also express some gratitude because I'm working all throughout the day on this business, but I also do it while I'm consuming Pokemon content because that's just market research. And so Pokiani and Bulbasaur and Arvin Goated Pulls and other people like Catch 'em All Collectibles and Nostalgianomics and tons of other people. I consume content and hear tons of perspectives, and all of that definitely informs, some of the things that I think about and some of the decisions I make.
Absolutely. And actually, on that note, maybe we let everybody know that the next Midweek Machamps is going to be joined by a fellow content creator, a smaller channel, but one that you and I are religiously tuning into any Pokemon related content he does. So next stream, we're going to be joined by Ern from Ern Collects. If you're not familiar with him, go check out his rambles from his car. but he's really, really plugged in and sharp guy. I think he's going to be a fun third for us for that episode. And I'm sure we'll have guests for other episodes too.
Yeah. The first guest for the Midweek Machamps is going to be Earn Collects. You guys should check out his YouTube channel. Most of his videos, again, like Ricky said, are from his car, which is super cool as he drives into work. Really good perspective. Someone who's always making really big moves as far as their collection and has great thoughts about sealed versus slabs because he buys, sells, collects, trade, vend. What else does he do?
I think you're close. I think you got it. The most recent one I watched of his, it really rolled off the tongue. He didn't stutter on it, so I think he might have landed on the.
He's perfected it. Buy, sell, trade, collect, vend, grade.
I think you're really close there. Yeah. We have a final segment to close it out on, man. You wanna tell our friends here what we're gonna end on?
Let me scroll to the end of my deal here. We got. I've
you don't remember?
Totally forgotten. What's the script? I've missed it. Leave me out. Help
I
me.
thought I was teeing you up, man. I thought you and I were just gonna do a little bit of the elite forecast.
Oh yeah. This is like where we choose one thing and just kind of guess where it's going and be okay with being right or being wrong as far as like the value of it in the marketplace.
Yeah, something. I mean, it could be a specific item. As specific as we can get is good. It doesn't have to be that specific. It could be kind of a category or a segment, but it can't be broad. It can't just be like sealed is going up. You have to kind of make a specific call, and we're putting it on the line. We're making a call. It's the elite forecast.
Okay, my elite forecast is 151. Let's just talk about the loose pack price. 151 loose pack price is going to, in a lot of ways, mirror what Hidden Fates loose packs have done. Whereas because that's printed so heavily, it's going to retain this kind of like $10 to $12 price for much longer than you might think. But then all of a sudden it's going to like double and then triple in price. And I'm going to say that doubling and tripling happens, drum roll, April of next year.
Whoa. Wow. A true elite forecast. Truly elite forecast.
That is Lance level forecasting.
Oh wait, you didn't prepare that? You actually forgot that that was just in your brain.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ricky, but I'm so deep in this hobby that I can just start ripping these off. I'm such a degenerate. I'm so pokey brained.
Wow, I'm impressed. Yeah, now we gotta tune in for next April's episode. I mean, hey, we're gonna still be here doing this.
Yeah, Mikey, like and subscribe for next April's program, and also let's get Ricky to his silver play button before then as well. Everyone, go to Ricky's channel and subscribe ASAP.
Thanks, man. Thank you. Let's go to Jake's website and buy the shirt that he's wearing ASAP. It's all plugs. It's just ads. The whole end of the video is just ads. The elite forecast, just like subscribe and buy our stuff.
Oh no, it's not supposed to be this way.
I got one for you.
What's this?
This is Swallowed Up Pikachu. And so my call, I mean, certainly on this guy, Swallowed Up Pikachu, but these are the category I wanted to talk about here is Japanese exclusives that feature Pikachu. Arvin is going to lose it, not the ponchos, like half art ponchos, maybe, but like, I'm thinking about these like this style, like not full art style, Japanese exclusives with Pikachu in them. So it could be the half art ponchos. It could be things like this very hilarious Swallowed Up Pikachu. Now, I don't think this is like the most daring thing of all time because this card was $300 when I bought it a little while ago, and somebody offered me $260 at a show, and I said no. And it was because I was elite forecasting that these are going up, and the recent sales on this are in the fives. So not vintage, not ultra modern. It's a 2020. And I just think as the attention goes to these ponchos, and as Arvin pointed out, I some of these really, really high end ones start to plateau in their value, like these $8,000+ ponchos and whatever else. They become less liquid. It really starts to price people out. But these Japanese exclusive, cute and hilarious Pikachu cards will always have an audience with collectors. So I continue to believe that cards like this are undervalued. And even though I've stickered it and I probably will bring it, I might not sell it. I really don't know if I'm actually going to like put it out at my table or not, just because my elite forecast is that these Japanese exclusives featuring Pikachu that are not currently thousands of dollars and hyped are underappreciated and undervalued. And I guess if I'm gonna do what you did, this is really making me anxious, but I'll do it. Is cards like these, I think, are gonna go up. I think they're like 30 to 40% undervalued through the end of this year. I think by December, I think a card like this could, in the half art ponchos and stuff like that, anything that's like under $5,000 right now, especially things that are under $1,000, I think are like, almost 50% undervalued, and that people will pay attention to them by the end of the year.
I love it. I love it. Ricky goes for the safe bet. I've had this card. It's doubled in value. I think it's going to keep going up.
Here we go. Here we go. Wow. Wow. Okay. It's cool, man. I wish I could go back in time to a few minutes ago when you were telling everybody to subscribe to my channel. Hey, someone's been saying I collect these Pika promos, don't attract attention. See,
oh, sorry. I had to pick on you. Once you flipped it around and showed me the price ticker, I was like, this guy, he's already made his money.
No, but okay. Well, so is it not a slightly hot take that it's gone up 50% since I bought it a couple months ago, and I think it's going to go up another 30-40%?
Great point. It means you have hands of diamond to hold on and keep gaining. It's your stonks. You have to keep hold.
Or Yamapika's goated. Yeah. That's a good example. This card was really relatively inexpensive not long ago. In January, I sold one of these for like $700 or $800. I don't even know what they are now. I think they're 3,000.
Shout out Screwston. Yes, every now and again, Evil Coop comes out to play. So, sorry,
man. I got I felt the sting of Evil Coop.
Dylan, the Seismitoad was last week. You need to go back and watch last week's take on Seismitoad.
Yeah, Dylan kind of admitting that he didn't watch last week's.
Yeah, forgive you.
It's okay,
all right, guys,
Dylan.
that's all we got for today. This has been version 3 of Midweek Machamps. Like we said, 2 weeks from now, it'll be us two plus Earn Collects. We'll have a good time, all three of us chopping it up. And I will be right in the middle of 2 front row card shows that same week. So it'll be really cool. We'll hear about your West Coast card show experience. We got a lot of cool things in the pipeline. Summer is on the decline. The Pokemon market is continuing on the incline. So it's a great time to be in the hobby. Thank you guys for being here. And that's all, folks.
We love you.
See ya.